legacymedia.com.
Hi guys, this is Mark from Legacy Media and welcome to this basic tutorial in photography. Today I wanted to talk about what is shutter speed. Previously I talked about what is aperture, and very soon you'll find out through these videos that they're all very much linked. However, shutter speed is basically the length of time that the hole in your lens, which is aperture, is open for. So basically your camera is like a big box that receives light, and it opens up, receives the light, and then closes. So basically shutter speed defines how long your camera is open for to receive that light, whereas we discussed previously that aperture is the size of the hole that receives the light. So shutter speed would be very important when you're shooting, say, sports, and say it's a football match and there's lots of quick movement. So you need to have a high shutter speed, which can go up to 8,000th of a second, by the way. So it can go very, very quickly, but you wouldn't say choose 8,000th of a second. Maybe you choose 1,000th of a second, or even 500th of a second. That's enough to capture quick motion. And if you say, let's say you're shooting a landscape, say you're shooting, a beautiful scenery, beautiful mountains, and you've got a tripod, you put your camera on a tripod, you can afford to lower the shutter speed, to 4 seconds even, or say you're photographing a waterfall and you wanted to capture the stillness, obviously, of the mountains, but you want to capture the motion of the water. 4 seconds would be perfect, because you would capture the motion of the water, so it wouldn't look like it's all stiff. You'd still see the smooth motion, but you'd also see the beautiful scenery as well. So shutter speed is very important, and it's important as well to know basically how steady your hand is when you're holding the camera, because that would determine the lowest shutter speed that you can have when holding the camera, because you don't want the camera to detect any motion in your hands. Now some people, this is different for everyone, so some people have very steady hands, some people not so steady hands. So you might need a higher shutter speed because maybe your hands are not as steady when holding the camera. And some people might not need that. Maybe they can get a good exposure without any blur at 30th of a second. But you need to determine that by practicing with your camera. So you hold your camera, put it in shutter priority mode. That way the camera will take care of the other settings, and all you have to worry about is the shutter speed. So then you take pictures and at different shutter speeds and see if you can detect the blur at those shutter speeds, and then you will know what the minimum shutter speed you can hold your camera for. Say for portraits, I would use, say, 125th of a second as my lowest, because I know that the camera, my hands are steady enough for 125th of a second. And also it won't detect any motion in the subject either, because you have to have it a certain height of shutter speed to not detect any motion in the subject as well. So it's not just about your hands, it's also about your subject as well, and their movement. So it's all about practicing really with your camera. Next I'll be discussing ISO. Then we would have completed the 3 main aspects when you're exposing a picture with photography. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Thank you.
legacymedia.com.